Hi, everyone. Welcome to Berkshire Green Drinks. Thanks for joining us, even if you maybe unintentionally did. Welcome. This event is organized by Berkshire Environmental Action Team, also known as BEAT. We are a small environmental nonprofit based here in Pittsfield. You can learn more on our website, thebeatnews.org. We also have some handouts up here. Feel free to pick one up. We also have a sign-in sheet. If you're here and you're joining us, we would love for you to sign in. That just helps us keep track of how many people are joining our events, which is really important because we are a nonprofit. So just a couple things before we get started. We won't be having our monthly Green Drinks event next month in September because we have our annual Berkshire Biodiversity Day or Berkshire Bio Blitz. And so that is taking place on Saturdays, September 13th and Sunday, September 14th at the Greylock Glen Outdoor Center in Adams. And we'll have a lot of guided walks, demonstrations, some presentations, and it's completely free to the public. So please join us. We also have a small handout over here about that. And you can learn more on our website for those online. And also for those online, if you could please stay muted during the presentation, and then you can use the chat whenever you'd like to put questions or comments, and we'll make sure that gets to Drake and Andrew during the Q&A after they're done with their slideshow. I think the only other thing I have is in October, we're having a special Green Drinks at Beats Building, our Environmental Leadership and Environmental Leadership and Education Center. And that's here in Pittsfield again. And that is going to be more so like a panel discussion that focuses on using data collection as it pertains to environmental advocacy. And that is taking place on Wednesday, October 15th. I think that's everything. Thank you to Wander for having us this evening. Please support them by buying a drink or a snack. And yeah, I think that's all. So thank you again. I'm going to hand it over to Drake, Reed, and Andrew Ferrara, who are the co-managers for Breathe Easy Berkshires, which is an air quality monitoring project that BEAT is currently running, and it's funded through the EPA. And they'll definitely tell you more about that. All right, thank you. Oh.
Hello, hi. How's everybody doing? Doing good? How's everybody in the Zoom world? Good? Hope you're good. Thanks for being here today, guys. We're really excited to show you a lot of the updates that have been going on and some work that BEAT's doing around air quality. So a lot of the work that my name is Drake Reed, by the way, the co-manager, and then this is...
I'm Andrew, hi.
We are leading this project called Breathe Easy. We've got great funding from the EPA to do an ambient air quality monitoring project. And so we're gonna run through kind of where we are in the project, why we started the project in the first place, and then show you some cool data that we've found and what we've been working on now, and where we're looking to go in the future with the project. So again, Breathe Easy is the name of the project, a 1.5 year long Pittsfield air quality monitoring project. So why did we start it? So actually we have a colleague here from Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. Woo! There is data that they had found in 2020 that found a really big discrepancy in life expectancy. It was 10 to 12 years difference in life expectancy for folks who lived in the west side and the morning side of Pittsfield. And we wanted to follow that thread and that point of contention that we saw and get to the bottom of why that could be. And we also know there's a lot of studies and a lot of links to ways that air quality and bad air and air pollution could be tied to that life expectancy. Oh, you're not supposed to see that. To that life expectancy difference. We know that there's numbers of studies showing that poor air quality impacts health in regards to premature death, premature birth rates, development and increased rate of heart disease and lung disease, as well as lung cancer. It also, increases rates of hospitalization, as well as asthma rates, missed days of schools for teenagers and kids. So yeah, we started the project to see if there was a link to the disparity and why the Morningside and West Side has this big disparity compared to the rest of Pittsfield, and see if it was linked to the air quality in Pittsfield, and that's why we started the Ambient Air Quality Project. So again, the project timeline, we got it off the ground in 2023. A lot of it was just getting the funding, right? Getting the grant off the ground, getting a lot of the monitors that we have that Andrew will go through, the different monitors that we are doing this ambient air quality project with, purchasing those, as well as doing a lot of the onboarding. And then a lot of 2024 was team building. That's when I was hired and Andrew came on earlier that year to get a lot of the work off the ground. There was a lot of great media plugs we did with the Morning Drive radio show, as well as establishing a lot of the stationary monitors in town. What happened in 2024. And now a lot of this year in 2025 has been really exciting because a lot of the work has been getting off the ground as far as research, as far as engagement, which we'll show you guys, getting out in the public, trying to see what they think about their air quality, what they think about what we found, getting them involved in thinking about other different infrastructure like historical power plants that could be tied to air quality, specifically the peaker plants here in Pittsfield, which is on GE land, which is also a lot of correlation to bad air quality within Pittsfield. So a lot of this year has been doing a cool discussion, which we'll talk about early in the year, a lot of workshops around getting people involved with the mobile monitors that we have, doing workshops around that. A lot of research and data around the health indicators of how bad air could be affecting our health in a lot of different ways happened this year. And we're still working, right? So a lot of this is all work in progress, things we're still working through, data that we're still collecting. So we're still loading into the next year, which the project will be done in 2026. So we are, 2025 in the research engagement piece. So I'll hand it off to Andrew and they'll just go through a lot of the technical monitors that we're using to explore air quality and a lot of the ways that we are doing that and how we're navigating Pittsfield and looking at air quality.
So as Drake mentioned, we're looking at ambient air quality throughout the city of Pittsfield, and we're measuring this in two different ways. So we have our stationary monitors. We have 9 of these devices throughout the city. We technically have a 10th, but it's co-located in Springfield with a regulatory monitor to make sure that all of our monitors are reading at accurate levels and giving us data that's actually usable and accurate. So they look like this. They're solar powered. They transmit readings through data, and they're uploaded onto our website, which you can go to at any time, breatheeasyberkshires.org. These monitors take a measurement every 15 minutes and then upload onto the website an hourly aggregate. So this is really real-time accurate data for different locations throughout Pittsfield. You can see a lot are clustered around downtown, but then we have one at the airport and one in the southeast. So this is a great option for if you live in Pittsfield and want to know what the air quality is like in your neighborhood, rather than the EPA's monitor, which lives just at Silver Lake and unfortunately has interrupted connectivity sometimes. So we encourage you to check it out, make use of it. So those are the stationary monitors, which I said are ongoing. We also have mobile monitors, which Madison is here. And if you want to check out how they are used, how they work, I would definitely encourage chatting with Madison after the presentation. So these are handheld devices that our mobile monitoring staff, including Madison and Dan, who's pictured here, They walk throughout the city and are looking at more real-time, on-the-ground, closer to sources of pollution data than the stationary monitors are able to pick up on. So for example, these are a few of our routes that are circling around what Drake mentioned before, the peaking power plant, which is a power plant that's located right in the center of Pittsfield, right next to the Allendale Elementary School. And that was one of many identified possible sources of pollution throughout the city that we're trying to look at the effects of. And then what are we actually monitoring with these devices? So in our grant, which we received from the EPA, we said that we would be monitoring for 2 different types of pollutants. The first is nitrogen dioxide. This is primarily sourced from the combustion of fossil fuels. So you see this as resulting from like engine emissions, from power plants, any kind of burning of fossil fuels. This can also come from things like backyard fires. And this is a pollutant of concern, not only because of the health impacts that it has, but also the way that it reacts in the atmosphere with other particulates. The next pollutant that we're looking at is particulate matter at the size of 2.5 microns and 10 microns, so PM 2.5 and PM 10. And these are not really a specific compound or chemical. It's really just any kind of physical particle at that size. So it can be dust, it can be smoke, it can be like soot from fires. And this is a picture showing how small 2.5 and 10 microns is. So this long thing is the average width of a human hair. This is like a grain of sand. These little blue icons, that would show what PM10 is, and PM2.5 is these even tinier pink ones. So these really, really small particles are ones that when you breathe them in, they're able to actually like infiltrate and get taken up through your lungs, get into your bloodstream, get into your body. Kind of scary stuff, but they're a reason of concern is because they're so small and they're so easily transmitted through the body. Not part of our original grant, but something that we found an additional monitor for and have been kind of looking into as well is volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. So these are a whole slew of different chemicals and compounds. The one commonality that they have is that they are chains of carbon and hydrogen and other chemicals. So that's where the organic word comes from. It doesn't really mean derived from nature or anything. It just means that it has carbon and hydrogen. That's an example of one of those molecules up there. These are found in a huge array of products. They often are noticed in that kind of off-gassing smell. So like that new car smell, a new couch, a lot of upholstery products, a lot of paints and plastics, so like even plastic furniture. They are constantly kind of interacting with the air and letting off these airborne particles. They're also found in a lot of different household goods, so like really heavily scented candles, fabric softener, different detergents, things that are manufactured to smell really nice and really, really strongly, are often able to do so through these volatile organic compounds, which again have health effects that we don't want.
Yeah, so now, thank you. We're gonna get into, don't show that yet, into some public engagement, right? So Andrew just explained a lot of the ways we're doing the monitoring through the mobile monitoring to see if we can catch air pollution in different parts of the Westfield and Morningside parts of the city, but also, right, the stationary monitors to try to also get an aggregation of to see if there's a correlation with these different areas and towns in the town of how air pollution might be moving. And the other half of the project of why we're doing it is to connect how air pollution can affect our health, right? Can affect our longevity in life, can affect our mobility, and a lot of different other aspects of our livelihood. And I think that's also a really good way to talk about and think about what it means to be publicly engaged in the community, to talk about real world, like normal ways to talk to the public about air pollution and how it can actually affect them in ways they don't even realize or think about. And that's kind of the point of the health study, which is the other part of the project that's going to be conducted at the beginning of next year. And so a lot of those engagement pieces looks like talking about wildfire, right? Wildfire right now is an extreme weather event that's an easy indicator and visual that people see happening in the real world that is a major effect on air pollution, our air quality, and affects us deeply when it comes to different diseases, asthma, and it affects us all, and it's becoming more widespread, it's becoming more unpredictable, and it was a really interesting time for us to connect wildfire smoke and air quality at the top of the year this year because of the butternut fires that happened in Great Barrington the previous year in November. So if you guys don't remember, who remembers that fire? Raise your hands. Okay. So a lot of people knew that time and knew what happened. So people that don't know, there was the biggest wildfire in Western Mass that happened last fall, and it took about two weeks almost to completely hamper down. And there was a lot of concern within Great Barrington, but also the rest of the Berkshire area when it came to air quality, because a lot of that smoke spread to different parts of the Berkshires. Specifically in Pittsfield here, we're investigating, there was a really big spike and really bad air quality at the peaks of the wildfires in Great Barrington. So to talk about how wildfires is connected to air quality and our health, we created and thought about a discussion that we could have with Pittsfield residents to get their experiences around the Great Barrington wildfire and hear what they experienced during that time through the senses, through what they heard, what they smelled, what they saw, what they were thinking during that time, to then create a conversation around, okay, like how is this affecting my health? How do I want to maybe get more reporting or alerts? How can I get more information on how to keep myself safe from air pollution and bad air? So this was like a really big, major way that we were able to start the discussion on talking about how air pollution and air quality is really important to our health. And then we also, throughout the year, we've done a lot of different workshops, which has been really great among all different ages. We just recently went to Greenagers and partnered with them, which if folks don't know, Greenagers is a organization that does a lot of work with kids and teenagers, as well as agricultural work, among a lot of other things. Sorry, long day. So we worked with them in a camp that was about middle school age kids, and worked with them around what is air quality, how does it affect us every day, how do we measure air quality through the air quality monitors. So we were showing them the monitors, we were explaining to them the different particles and molecules we're looking at that affects our health. And it was really cute. They went around town and thought of different ways and places they think air pollution could be coming from. So we started to connect the dots and help them understand different sources of air pollution, right? Like high rates of traffic, or places that have maybe an AC running really loudly, or like all the time, or idling cars and things like that. We also spoke with the Berkshire Community College early in the year too, which was more college-age kids, to show them our work and connect the, how health and air quality is connected, doing mobile monitoring with them and different parts of Pittsfield and some of the routes that we have. We've worked with, help me out here, who else have we?
The Taconic High School?
Taconic High School, yep. So we also went to Taconic High School twice. which was really great. We did indoor air quality monitoring with them, and we worked with them to collect data and help them think about and explore places possibly in their school that they could find air pollution indoors, which is really cool. So a lot of these things are ongoing, and it's a great way for us to connect with the community on the project, and connecting how health is really important when we're talking about air quality. So if anybody wants a workshop or knows anybody who might want a workshop, please let us know. Those are ongoing. So yeah, we have a lot of different findings that we'll go through. I think the first, which we just talked about, wildfire, is going to be specifically around smoke when it comes to the fireworks that just happened in July, that Andrew was going to break down a little bit now of some of the things you've been finding.
Yeah, so as far as significant kind of individual air quality events, like Drake talked about, we had the Great Barrington Fire. We also did, Madison and I went and did monitoring at the 4th of July fireworks. We saw another huge spike in air quality. You can see from the pictures how visible the particulate matter was coming from those fireworks. So thinking about all of these different events that we put on and all of these different possible sources of air pollution that might be long-held traditions that are very close to our hearts, but might not be so healthy for us. The next one that we noticed and are noticing right now is the Canada wildfires. So with global warming and the prevalence of wildfires, it's not just the ones that are close to home, like Great Barrington, it's also ones that are way far away throughout Canada, and we are still experiencing the effects of them. This was a screen grab from our clarity map yesterday morning, so still showing moderate air quality in most of our monitors. And this is actually the EPA's Air Now Fire and Smoke Map, which you can see this kind of gray overlay over much of the United States is where the smoke is actually being felt and seen and smelled. Next slide. On a much broader scale, away from individual discrete events, this is our stationary monitor data from the past year and a half, looking at the average air quality index for NO2. So you can see throughout Pittsfield, all of the different monitors that we have, our average is actually pretty good. So while we have these discrete moments of poor air quality, on the whole, we have, or at least what we've seen, we've got good measurements for NO2. I think the highest is from the Pittsfield Fire Department headquarters. So where our monitor is located on that building also faces the transit station. So for NO2, I would expect to see, stuff from the diesel engines of the fire engines going out, as well as buses coming through the transit station. So that makes sense to me to be the highest, but like I said, on average, it's still within the good range. Next slide. This is the same pull of information, but for PM 2.5, so the smaller of the particulate matters that we're looking at. And you can see it's a bit of a different story. Again, most of the, there's 3 locations where the average air quality is within the good range, which is an air quality index score of below 50. But we also have some that are in moderate and one that's in unhealthy, which is right at the Pittsfield airport. So this is something that we want to kind of dig deeper into, look at more of the story of what's happening, what might be causing these higher levels, and make sure that this is something that the people living here are aware of, that there are probably going to be more days where you should check the air quality and think about the time that you're spending outside. Next slide. So this is an aggregate of, like I said, that was our stationary monitor data. This is our mobile monitoring data so far. It's a little messy and hard to read, so excuse my pulling together of a quick map. But on the left is the NO2 from our regular monitoring routes, and on the right is the 2.5. The darker green indicates lower levels, so better air, and the lighter green and sometimes white circles is higher air. So you can start to see there's a little bit of a pattern spread out throughout the different ranges of the city. What I notice most in the NO2 map is that we're seeing higher numbers right on those like high trafficked areas. So that indicates to me from an initial look at this data that a lot of the NO2 is coming from, again, traffic sources. Next slide.
Yeah, this kind of leads into a lot of also the health data that we've been looking at when it comes to air quality. So a lot of the health data that we grabbed so far has been from the EPA's now debunked EJ screen that they used to have that would have a lot of data that was weighted for more environmental justice communities. So a lot of that weight specifically in this data entails income, entails race, and entails English as a first speaking language to help us get a better reading of who actually is being affected in a realistic way around air quality. So a lot of the map, like Andrew said, a lot of the NO2 is concentrated downtown here. So to the left, there's an NO2 density map, and you'll see like the slimy green color is the more stronger, heavier density of NO2 found in the city. And that map is, again, still in its beginning stages, a little hard to read, but the red side outside of the city, there's lower densities of NO2. So the green and the blue are the higher densities of NO2 found in the city. And then a bigger major indicator we're seeing is the traffic proximity, right? So traffic, you can find a lot of NO2, PM2.5 there. Congestion also affects air quality in a lot of congested parts of the city. So there's a really high correlation to bad air and air pollution when it comes to traffic proximity. And that's to the right here. And you can see that the darker blue is just the more traffic dense parts of Pittsfield. And so a lot of the health data is still in the works. There are different indicators and things we're pulling from the EJ screen, like toxic waste sites, as among other things, to help us get a better reading on where specifically there could be corridors of air pollution. So ways to protect yourself. Okay, so we have a handout that's going to be super handy that we want all of you guys to grab later. We can pass it around. That gives the air quality index. So the air quality index was created by the EPA to help us get a reading and understanding on when there's bad air quality days and good ones. And there's a color correlated to it, like Andrew was explaining on his map. You could see the green and the yellow and the orange. Those all have an indicator on how bad the air quality could be on any given day. So there's an indicator that people can use. There's an app where people can go on and measure and see the bad air quality days versus the good ones. And we think that, which you'll see on the handout, is a really great way for you to be aware of when there's bad air quality days. But some really simple ways you can protect yourself is just protecting sensitive groups when it comes to air quality. So on the EPA, there's this indicator or category of people within the scale that's called air quality that affects sensitive groups. And so within those sensitive groups, there's actually a bigger array of people that it affects than it states. So sensitive groups could be older folks, it could be teenagers, it could be children, outdoor workers, as well as folks who are prone to lung disease and heart cancer, or lung disease and lung cancer, sorry. So that's a lot of people than actually is, stated. So there's a lot of us who are in that sensitive group category that we should be aware of. So when there are bad air quality days, just wear a mask if you have to go outside. Try to avoid doing any heavy lifting or outdoor exercise. Try to make sure that yeah, you're wearing a mask. Also, if you're indoors, you can make sure you have filters and make sure that they're HIPAA filters to make sure you're circulating also the bad air that is indoors that occurs on bad air quality days. There's also different ways where there's avenues where you can build and make your own filter, which is really cool. So those are some ways indoors you can also protect yourself from bad air and air pollution. I think this is coming to the end of our presentation. Yeah. So yeah, that's all we kind of have for you guys. Thank you guys for listening about air quality and seeing a bit about how we're investigating it in Pittsfield. Again, we have a survey here that you guys, I hope you fill out we just are trying to still work out and do questionnaires around seeing how you guys are feeling in regards to health and air quality within in Pittsfield or just in your general, Berkshire life. So please make sure to fill that out before you leave. And there's going to be an online version as well. We're updating the online questionnaire, the health study. So if you go to the breatheeasy.org website, this is really bright. You'll see a questionnaire there that you can fill out as well. So please, before you leave, don't forget to fill that out. That'll help us out a lot and help us with the investigation that we're doing. And yeah, are there any questions or open it up to the chat online? So that question was, have we been able to compare seasons and the data when it came to air quality from last season or last fall to this coming fall or any season? I was just getting it back to the folks over there. That's a good question. Yeah, I feel like we also got to hear if we're doing a lot of analysis of the yearly data that could probably speak to that, but there's also, I would say it's been, because it's ambient air, right, and there's always a flow and change depending on the wind tunnels or the wind flow or the kind of air moving around, that it is kind of complicated to see some patterns, but I'll let also the person doing that data work.
So we're still working on gathering all the data. I finished gathering everything so far up to this point for the investigative routes, but we still have our routine routes. But that's definitely something I think we're going to be doing, is comparing different seasons, especially between 2024, 2025, and part of 2026.
Yeah, and you suggest to talk about weather too,
Yes. Yeah.
looking at different effects that weather has. So on comparable days where it's, sorry. Also, something that we're going to look at is weather and how that plays into it. So comparable days for like pollution load, but one day that's really windy versus one day that's not. So there's a lot of comparative analysis that we have ahead of us and so many different questions that we can ask. So we're really in that exploratory stage of seeing what questions are interesting to look at.
That was a good timing right there. How about anybody else? Don't be shy. Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had a chance to have any control sites or get a sense of like the background. I guess I'm concerned if our general background is high and we're seeing spikes on top of that.
Yeah, so
Just to repeat that to chat. So the question was, have we been able to get control variables for the data, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we've chosen for our control is, for the stationary monitors at least, is a location in the southeast of Pittsfield that's very low traffic. There's no construction projects around it. Nothing that we could see that would contribute to, bad air on a consistent basis. And we have seen, if you go back to the slides that have all those graphs, we have seen that control is the lowest across the board of what we've been measuring.
It's down there.
Actually right here.
Oh.
So that was our control location that we chose for the stationary monitoring. For the mobile monitoring, it's a little bit more difficult. So we have, as Madison said, our routine routes and our investigative routes. So our routine routes are the ones that we are checking consistently the same locations all the time and getting a spread of different times of day, different potential pollution loads, and then doing comparative analysis between those and our investigative routes, which is where we think pollution might be. So that's been our attempt at setting a baseline.
Yes.
I have two questions. The first is, was there any mobile monitoring in Great Barrington during the fires when the whole town was shrouded comparing to around Pittsfield? So that's question one. Question two is, have you put monitors in like the middle of Springside Park or like where there's a heavy load of trees versus open areas to see if, that are pretty close together, but one is heavily forested, the other is not, to see if the tree, if there's really a difference in the pollution?
Yeah, two great questions. So during the Great Barrington Fire, I was actually at the time living down in New Marlborough. So although the scope of our project is really only Pittsfield focused, I did borrow our monitors and go down and look into the in the city. I believe it was the evening of the 20th, which is overnight into the 20th is when the fire had like really spread, had doubled in size. That's when everyone kind of started noticing and worrying about it. So that evening I brought the monitors down into Great Barrington. I was seeing, I think, the highest levels of particulate that we've seen since. I would say that the fireworks were exactly comparable to that, which was a real eye-opener for me. And they were at, I can't pull the numbers off the top of my head, they were at levels where it's dangerous to breathe at for an extended period of time. So I think the EPA is set for an 8-hour, like 8 hours of intense breathing, versus there are like lower standards for if it's safe to breathe 24/7. So it was in that level of like, you should only, if you breathe it, I'm not explaining this well, if you breathe it for like a period of 8 hours consistently, you are expecting to see like some lasting impacts on your breathing. But again, that was a discrete point. Even the next day, we had seen our monitors drastically drop, and the air returned to a much more normal level. And the same with the fireworks. It was dense, it was heavy for several hours, and then afterwards it dissipated. The second question about having the monitors in Springside Park or another like really densely wooded area, that's tricky for our stationary monitors because they do have to be located in a spot where they're, up high, either attached to a building, and then that connectivity for the data to upload our readings. So I don't think it would be feasible to do with the stationary monitors, but it's something that we can certainly start doing with the mobile monitoring, and doing like a regular route through a wooded area like that would be a great idea. And we're always looking for other ideas of where we should be monitoring. So please let us know if you have any others. Yes.
Just to kind of respond to that comment, the EPA has an air monitoring toolbox. So up to January 2025, they were very supportive of community science and understanding air quality. So it has been well documented that forested areas serve as a really good pollution sink. So they've actually advised if you're looking to kind of capture, air quality, to maybe not even put it too close to a forest because it will offset it so much and it will affect your readings. And so that's good that trees are our friends in so many other ways.
We need the trees.
Thank you.
Yeah, back
There are
there.
also some questions in the chat when you have a moment.
That's a good question. Yeah, humidity does have an effect on air quality in a lot of different ways. Like it could trap a lot of it. Like I know specifically in the summer, ozone rates can go up really high when, when the sun is beaming down and there's a lot of that air is kind of trapped between the ozone layer and here, and then it creates like a haze and a smog that can be caused increased by the rate of humidity. That's some of the bigger ways I know, but there's also ways that humidity can affect how the lingering of PM10 can happen. You know, that dust and soot that can get trapped in the air.
Okay, so the first one is, it sounds like you weren't able to make any connection with, oh, and actually, sorry, I'll finish this, but it seems like Rose maybe responded to it. It sounds like you weren't able to make any connection with contaminants in Pittsfield generating. Is that true?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think a lot of the work is still being done. We're hearing and doing a lot of actual like qualitative research to hear how people's experiences with air quality along with Pittsfield generating could be related. So there's still a lot of space to explore that. So I wouldn't rule that out.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo that we're still doing that analysis. I certainly can't say yes or no right now. Yeah.
Work being done.
And then there was a question about biomass, but Rose also answered that and let everyone know that BEAT does participate in initiatives of the Mass Power Forward Coalition, and there's actually a letter writing campaign to urge the legislator to remove biomass from our state's clean energy. Someone just mentioned that Massachusetts burns more wood than any other state in New England. So, but she answered that. So the next one is, thank you for your presentation update. It seems that rain brings down particulate matter in the air. Is this true? And depending on particulate size and type, which ones do drop out of the air attaching to moisture?
So rain definitely does have that effect of dissipating. I mean, I think we all saw that very recently, even today. It does bring some of that particulate matter out of the air. I actually don't know about specific sizes, but that's something that would be interesting to look at.
So the next Zoom question is, do you intend to look into business types near observations? I'd be curious to see an overlay with locations of laundromats, restaurants, and manufacturing. So just 1 second.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that we're looking at. The question was about different business types. So all of our investigative routes, I didn't really go into kind of where those all are, but they're all throughout the city. We're definitely looking at places like laundromats, especially going behind the building, seeing where the vents are outletting, when those vents are active, when they aren't. Pittsfield also has a great tradition of plastics manufacturing, so there's some of those locations that we're looking at, and then just also areas with like high shipping. We are all over the like industrial downtown areas, and like I said, still pulling together that data, but that's definitely something that we're looking at. If there are specific locations that you think we might not be catching, definitely let us know, and we'll see if we can check them out as well.
Guaranteed, or are you guys at risk of losing that?
That's a good question. So our contract. That's
No,
okay.
you're good.
That's okay.
You're good.
Oh yes, is our grant funding at risk essentially because it is an EPA grant. So we had a completed contract through the end of March 2026, and that end date is still in place. There was a concern earlier in this year about whether funding was attempted to be blocked and taken away, but that was reinstated. So as far as we know and are operating under, we are still contracted through to the end of March 2026.
Yep.
So yeah, we are A-okay. We had applied for an extension to carry out our project for a little bit longer, but that won't be an option anymore.
Well, we also still get a lot of the monitors too extended.
Oh,
past
yes,
our-
that's a good point.
Past the grant
So-
time, so we'll still have a lot of monitors to do investigations in Pittsfield.
Yeah, so our contract with the stationary monitors actually lasts through November 2026. So our data collection will still be up and running kind of after our official work has ended under the grant. And we also outright purchased our mobile monitors. So that's something that we would still be able to continue through to the future.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that website will continue to be up, and
Clarity
you can
will
still
still be
check
up.
it while we still have those monitors, yes. Yes.
Does the PM10 like track closer with where exactly cars and other sources are, and the 2.5, does that spreads out more?
They're found together a lot of the time. They can be found together a lot. There's no like distinction at the time when it comes to car combustion. So PM10, PM2.5 is usually found in the same general areas when we're investigating.
So the PM10 spreads as much as the PM5?
Yeah.
Another question, I think actually two, here on Zoom. I'm not sure how much you can really say about this, but could you talk about wood burning stoves and furnaces and how they impact our air?
Yes, so wood burning stoves and furnaces. That's another one that I can talk on personally because my parents have a wood burning stove. So I did, again, bring home my work and do a little bit of monitoring. And that's a significant source of indoor air pollution, especially and pretty much primarily the particulates. But I think, at least for myself, you can kind of see that coming. I don't know if you've had experience with wood burning stoves, but you can kind of see the soot and the dust coming out. If you empty out an ashtray, that's additional particulate matter that's getting into the air. So that's definitely a good source of indoor, not good, but a high source of indoor air pollution. The same with, I would say, gas stoves, like gas ranges. We lost our PowerPoint, but that's okay.
It's okay.
Those, I would say, are two of the biggest, like most discrete sources of indoor air pollution. Yeah, and I, again, not on me, but I do have the numbers to back that up.
Any other questions?
So, does Pittsfield have an anti-idling law? I don't think so, right?
Not the city. I know a lot of the schools have no idling zones for like pickup lines and school buses, but within the actual school like property itself, that's all that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't know.
The state has a 5-minute idling.
5
The
minutes?
state has a 5-minute idling law.
The
I
state-
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I didn't know that either.
The state has a 5-minute idling law. You can't tell, but,
Yeah,
but they do have a 5-minute idling law.
that's good to know.
And then one more question from Andrew's mother. Does using an air purifier help with indoor air quality while using a wood stove?
Yes, using an indoor air purifier will help with the issue of a wood stove. It's still getting out and into the air, but again, it's able to pull the particulate matter out of the air afterwards. I mean, it would be best if it was not in
was
the
not
air to
in it,
begin
yeah.
with, but it would certainly help than nothing at all.
Yeah.
Right, well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Please fill out the health survey before you leave. That'd be great.